Peace, blessings, prosperity, love, and light. Welcome back to Deep Speak with Brother Sadiq. Today we'll be talking a little bit more about Mr. Spinner. Mr. Spinner is the gentleman I told you guys walked up on me downtown Indianapolis 2 in the morning after my prayer and rant and tears to the Creator about why I'm here. Anyway, Mr. Spinner and this friend of mine, his name is, well, I won't go into that. We'll keep his name private. Anyway, this friend of mine from Bloomington, they met downtown. And from that meeting, me, Mr. Spinner, and this gentleman became like the three amigos. So often Mr. Spinner would come when I was working, 5 o'clock, hang out. And when I'd leave, of course, we'd be talking in the whole nine. And so when I leave, I would ask him, you need a ride somewhere. Occasionally, he'd allow me to drop him off somewhere, usually in the neighborhood, but no specific house. And so over time, I started to tell him, like, bro, the weather started changing, getting colder at night or whatever. And I'm like, bro, you can come to the house with me. Um, I'm cool with that. And he's like, no, I can't really do that until we reach a certain point in the certain aspects of your life that, well, to put it like this, he said, once I cross the threshold of your door, certain people won't be able to come back into your home. So once he said that, I kind of stopped asking him about it. But gradually, the brother started coming to the house, and he wouldn't stay, but he would sleep in the car. He'd spend the night in the car. I put covers out, I give him covers, and give him food or whatnot. And he'd spend the night in the car, and he did this for months. And eventually, I think this was, I don't know, a couple of months after me being married. So the young lady that I was dating at the time in the last video, we eventually got married. The same brother who did the, I guess you say, questioning of Mr. Spinner, Brother Daoud, is the same brother who married me and this young lady. So Mr. Spinner used to come and he would stay at the house, and we had, between myself and this young lady, we had 10 children. I had 4 sons and she had 6 children of her own. And so we had a total of 10 children. A lot of people would ask, how you marrying somebody with 10, you got 10 children? How you doing this? Somebody got 6 children, you have 4 of your own. Are you a millionaire? And it was never about finance for me. It was always about the spiritual responsibility that I had already kind of taken on. So what happened with me, Spinner, and this friend of mine, the friend of mine became a financial support for programming that came out of our meeting. Spinner was like a spiritual inspiration for me, and the other friend who lived in Bloomington was like a financial support. And so what happened? We created a program. We filed this all through the state. It's called MyBrothersLibrary Inc. So the goal was to get a 24-hour community center. Beds, food, clothes, tutors, mentors, the whole nine. Now, this all comes out of the reality of our history. If you take note of the community, if you're talking about the hood, quote unquote, the high risk environment, right? That's what they like to say. So anyway, we talk about the high risk environment. The fact of the matter is you don't have a lot of role models to pattern yourself after. If you go in any of these neighborhood high schools, elementary, junior high, it hardly matters. If you ask any of them, what do you want to be when you grow up? And the majority of them gonna tell you, I say 80% will probably say a basketball player or a football player or a singer or a rapper or an actor or some form of entertainment, because that is what society has shown, shown that you can be successful as, in America. So that's kind of the highlighted ideas of what these cats want to be. the reality is that every soul, every child, every person born has some natural gifts and aptitudes that are, innate with them. And so the goal of this community center and these programs is to find the natural aptitude, the natural gifts that God gave to every individual, of course, and we want to start with the youth. So, fact of the matter is, you won't create a scientist or a rocket scientist or a chemist or some other far-fetched ideas of high intellect if you don't have that in your environment. Um, the example I give is like I was telling you earlier in the videos. In my environment, what was there was what I had to learn from. So, me being intelligent enough to recognize that all of these cats are criminals, right? You have the criminal element there. So, of all the criminal elements, what is the one that seems to be least in trouble, has the least amount of problems related? So you look at the drug dealer, he go to jail, he getting shot at, he getting chased, he got chaos with that life. You got all of these criminal lifestyles. So for me, what it said was the pimp, right? He has 4 or 5 girlfriends. They're all aware of each other. They bring him the money, and the psychology behind how that happens was a major influence on the direction that I went. But the fact of the matter is, that's only because that's what was in my environment. And so, if there were scientists and people who were into chemistry, I was very much into chemistry, but there were no chemists around my house. There were no chemists in my environment. And so, there was no role model to pattern after. And so, what the intent of this program is, if you can find the natural aptitude and the natural gifts of these kids, right? The ones who are, like you said, in the worst environments, the ones who are last chosen and first discarded, as the American energy and image goes, right? You know who we are. So if you can lift the bottom, as they say, right, all ships rise, right? So if we can give the highest form of education, help develop these children who we already know have natural gifts and aptitudes. So the goal is, you find a kid who has a interest in science. You have a scientist who is retired and he has extra time. He comes to the community center. He mentors these children. They, of course, are already interested in what he's teaching. And so therefore you have a perfect match for a higher education. So the idea is this. Right now, whatever age you are, say I'm 25 years old. If I took what I know at 25 and put it into a child who's 12, he wouldn't make the mistakes that I've already made. And all of the things that I already know, he would only grow in knowing. He would only master. He would only become better at. So that is the intent. If we can take the wisest of the minds who have retired, we have those in our communities, and we put them with those who have a natural aptitude and a natural attraction to that which is already being displayed or taught or available to them, then we match them up. So what we were doing here in Bloomington and in Indianapolis, it started in Indianapolis. We started with some basic door knocking. We did a community cleanup in an area called Hallville. We got about 150 people to come out. We did a cleanup of about 3 blocks, bags. There were kids, there were adults, there were old people. We cleaned up the neighborhood. After we cleaned up the neighborhood, people who were not involved in the actual cleanup began to clean up their own yards. We had a cookout in the park. And when we had this cookout, one of the highlights of the cookout was a lady who was 81 years old. I was out doing the cleaning. My wife was back tending to the food for the returning group. So she said while she was in the park, an 81-year-old lady on a walker walked down to the park from her house. I'm not exactly sure, about a block, I assume. And she walked to the park where my wife was, and she told her, "Who are you guys, and what are you doing, and why are you doing it?" And after, my wife explained what the intent was, what our purpose was, and why we were there, um, the lady told her, um, "I so appreciate what you're doing. You have no idea. I've been living in this neighborhood for this many years, and I sit on my porch or I sit in my window and I look at this park right here. This is supposed to be for kids, but all I see is people doing drugs in here. All I see is people sitting in this park doing drugs all the time. You never see kids here. This is the first time I've seen kids here in years, and I appreciate y'all, and I just had to come down here and thank you." And so for me, that was deep, deep, deep motivation, right? I was totally moved by that because the intent was to show the community and the children and the youth that you do have power, right? See, in those communities where we are most left out, the spirit of hopelessness kind of comes over some of the community. And so the fact that you can show a child that they have power by we all working together, we all got up and got our bags and we went out and cleaned the neighborhood up. And when they got done, we all had a meal. We ate and we chit chatted and woo woo. And so when they went back to the neighborhoods, though, their houses, they recognized that their neighborhood is clean. I've been living here all these years, and my neighborhood ain't never been clean. And so you would see. So we did this not just one time. We did it over, I think, 2 weeks. We did it at least two times, and we may have done it like spaced it out between 2 to 3 weeks. But over time, you start to see the same kids who were helping in the cleanup tell their buddy, "Hey man, don't throw that on the floor, bro. We don't throw that on the ground. We just cleaned up over here. Put that in that can. And so that's the idea, to show them that they have the power to affect change. So if you can get the neighborhood in the worst area, Hallville, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Hallville. This is in 2007. But I'm from Detroit, and I heard about Hallville before I ever came to Indianapolis. So Hallville had a notorious, I guess you'd say, a reputation for being, thugged out, criminal area, high crime, high poverty, et cetera, et cetera. Well, we put out flyers and told people we were going to have a cleanup and we were going to have a barbecue, and we got 150 people to show up. And they cleaned up their neighborhood, and it remained clean. And I don't know how long it lasted, but the fact is they saw the effective power that they had to do and to change their own environment. And so that's just a step one. That's a process. And here in Bloomington, we enacted the program. So the one in Indianapolis that what we did, the cleanup, is called Clean the Scene. So that's the idea. Clean the scene, get the community kids to go in different parts of the community, do a cleanup. We do a cookout. We try to get some of the local businesses to provide the cleaning tools, etc. And, it's your community. So, yeah, you should support the youth doing something positive. So that's that. And then we had here in Bloomington, the Big Share. This was done at the local community center. This is another program. This one, the SHARE is an acronym. SHARE is Self-Help Apprenticeship Rewards Exchange. So the goal is to have a junior apprenticeship program. We would have professionals from all walks of life, all professions, different religions, to come in and talk to the youth about their profession, religion, etc. And, their education, some of the struggles that they had to overcome. And then we would do a Q&A with the youth and the guest. And all the time while this was occurring, some of the kids, some of the children and the staff at the community center, we were cooking a meal, a real home cooked meal, like, cutting potatoes and cutting onions and, real home cooked meal, not out of a box. So we would do this 2 to 3 times a week. And we did this for about 3 years. Me and a different friend who was acting in the role of a philanthropist to help out as well. So we did this program for about 3 years, and we'd have the kids, like I said, do a Q&A, and they'd ask the questions about, a little bit of everything. And the good thing about that is that it gives the children an idea of a career field, a path, something that they may have already a gift for. And so that is a couple of the programs. There are several programs, but the intent is to do a 24-hour community center supported by the businesses in the community and nurtured and pretty much staffed by those in the community like myself and others like you who already give more about, you care, you love the children, you want for them to reach their full potential. You want them to have all the opportunities in the world to reach their full potential. So the history of this country, education is key. We all know that. We hear the songs. What's the song? The children are the future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. So what is the education that they should know? What is the education that they should have? Because we have continuously taught education. We have continuously educated the children, but what have we taught them? It seems that we have taught them the things that we already know. And so if you continue to teach what you know, then you can only get what you already have. Right. Okay. So what is it that we should teach? We should teach what is naturally part of their makeup. How do you do that? You find out intimately what they have as a skill, as a natural gift. And when you do that, when you know that, you nurture that. You find ways to nurture that. You bring resources to nurture that. And what will you do? You will produce children and young adults who will create a new future, a different type of world. And that's what My Brother's Library is. I think most of us recognize, as we are in this state of emergency nationally, internationally even, that the old ways of the world are on their way out. Okay? So if you don't know that by now, then you should be doing a lot of research in a short amount of time, because it's over. As far as the ways of corruption and greed and et cetera, on the negative side, that's done. It's on the way out. So this educational format, My Brother's Library, is actually designed to bring about that which will be next. It's what is for our future. These children will bring about things in the world that we have not seen. They will have titles that we have not spoken. They will create that which will heal the earth. So, for those of you who know, there are those of us who are awake, who are activated, who have been, I guess you could say, imbued with a certain amount of knowledge and spirit. So, I will explain further later in another video the name Sadiqullah. It is not a name that I chose. It is not a name that I sought after. It is not a name that was given to me from any member of the community. I've been married 3 times. I've had 3 wives. They've all asked me, you're a Muslim. Why have you not changed your name? And I said, because Allah will give me my name. My idea was that an elder in the community who recognized a certain character or nature in me would say, this is the character and nature that you have, so this would be a good name for you. This is what I expected to become. That is not what happened. After prayer one day, I was in the shower, and in the shower, I had an experience, and I will share that with you in our next video. So, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Please share. Please subscribe. Please comment. And I hope to see you in the future, because that's what this is about. Peace, blessings, love, and light. I hope to see you soon. Thank you.